Thank you so much for staying with us this morning. The Nigerian Navy is 69. And I was jokingly telling our guests that Nigeria should actually be calling the Nigerian Navy uncle or brother. But there's a lot has happened over the weekend. For those of you who are not aware, the Nigerian Navy celebrated 69 years with a number of activities, and according to the CNS, low-key. Well, let's hear from him this morning. He joins us, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogalla, Chief of Naval Staff. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
69 is not a small number.
Yeah.
And so I think the congratulations is actually in order.
Thank you.
How was the celebration? How did it all go?
Oh, it was good. Though we intended it to be low-key, but of course, Nigerian Navy, there's nothing you can do that can be low-key. So we ended up doing all that we had to do. The only thing, we spared a few events for next year, which will be our 70th anniversary. We spared some of those events for next year. It was good.
Yeah, but that's not to say, as you said, that the low-key was so low-key that no one noticed.
Yes.
So some of the activities involved the president?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
But he was represented by the Honorable Minister of State for Defense.
Okay.
For instance, we commissioned 3 new vessels and 3 new helicopters on Saturday. We also commissioned several other projects. And among other activities, like medical outreach, like the ceremonial sunset, which is a normal thing for us every Navy Day. We did all these events, and it was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm particularly interested in the fact that the fleet of advanced ships and helicopters were committed to enhance security and promote economic activities along the nation's coasts. Tell us things that Nigerians may not know about what you do, particularly along the coastal lines. Because when people hear, oh, okay, this happened, that happened, and they have to do with coastal lines, they're wondering, what's going on here? You know, give us an idea of what the Nigerian Navy does, particularly along those coastal lines.
Yes, you see, the Nigerian Navy, being, of course, you know, we are a branch of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have 3 main roles. One is what we call our military roles, which is defense of the nation's territorial integrity and sovereignty, particularly from the maritime domain. Then we have our policing roles, which is what we do in terms of providing those functions that a Coast Guard normally performs in some other countries. And this involves protection of critical national infrastructure, ensuring that there's a conducive environment for businesses to thrive in the maritime environment. Then we also have what we call our diplomatic roles, which is common to all navies in the world. Because when you fly the flag of your nation in other countries, you are somehow projecting your nation in good light. That's what we call diplomatic roles, which we do through flag showing, sailing to other countries, participating in so many activities with other countries to showcase the flag of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in doing this, it involves 24 hours commitment to our duties. And some of them, like you said, may not be visible to the public, because when you are operating at sea, many people on land do not know that there's anything going on at sea. But we know that that is the role of every Navy, to operate at sea and to operate within the coastal areas and be able to ensure that there's safety of lives and property at sea. And of course, you know that issues of piracy, issues of all other forms of criminalities at sea, these are the areas that we focus on day and night. And I think that we are doing our best in that regard.
Absolutely. How bad is the situation, particularly over the past 1 year? Because since you assumed the command of the Nigerian Navy, the fight against oil theft, for instance, has been a huge one. Of course, it would seem that the situation has improved, but that's not to say that the serious issues are still not there. We still hear pockets of conflicts here and there, you know, state governments, discoveries of infrastructure being destroyed and all of that. How bad is it, and what do you think can be done?
Yes, it's an ongoing project. Let me call it a project because you see, the fight against crime is something that has to be ongoing and continuous. But within the past 2 years or thereabouts that I came, there has been some tremendous improvement. Improvement in the sense that most of the activities, we have been able to checkmate them. And that is why there's a drastic reduction in the activities of these illegal refiners. Now, when you look at issues of, let's say, oil theft, you see that it's something that involves a collective approach. It's not just the Nigerian Navy, but all law enforcement agencies in this country. They are all fighting towards bringing that kind of activity to the barest minimum.
What are the things you can say that we have achieved in that regard? Particularly, okay, maybe I should put it this way. It's often been said by security experts, and I don't know if you agree with them, that all insecurity is local, all. And consequently, if we're going to win the war, or at least tackle it significantly, as you've said, there would need to be some significant engagement with the people, particularly the locals in the various communities. Have you been able to, is there any intervention in that regard? And what's the response been, if there's been?
Yes, I agree with you completely. Every insecurity starts from the local environment, from the communities. And that is why the Nigerian Navy, as part of our strategy, is complete engagement with the locals. And when I mean the locals, I mean everyone within the area who can provide the much needed information for the Navy to be able to perform its task. We are engaging with the community, we're engaging with other law enforcement agencies, Nigerian police, civil defense, and even the other branches of the military, like the Air Force and the Army. We're engaging with them. And to be frank, if you must tackle insecurity, you must look at all the non-kinetic aspects. What are those driving forces that makes people to go into crime? And these are the issues that has to do with poverty, unemployment, among others. So we are also engaging in trying to contribute to solving some of these problems within the areas that we operate. So the local community are key. They are key because not only are they key to giving us information, they're also key to fighting crimes, because the first element of fighting crimes is from within the community.
You know, we've heard, still on that one, Marco will come in shortly, but still on that one, we've heard over time by various people that some of the, we hear that, okay, there's been oil theft and all those things, but we never really hear about the oil thieves. Is this something you can comment on?
Well, we have been talking about the oil thieves because most of the vessels we have arrested and most of the criminals that we have arrested, some of them have been prosecuted, and those who are found complicit, some of them have been convicted. But you see, the issue of oil theft, for instance, a vessel, for instance, some of them are not even owned by Nigerians. So to bring them to book here in Nigeria becomes sometimes very difficult. So in most cases, you see that we deal with the people that we can see. Those are the ones that are handed over to prosecuting agencies for them to prosecute. But in the overall analysis, a lot of these people have been brought to book, and a lot of convictions have been made with regards to people involved in criminal activities in the Niger Delta, the maritime environment.
Yeah, the necessary question to ask would be, do we have infrastructure in place, soft or hard infrastructure, to forestall a recurrence? Because, as you know, just as you said, it's an issue that has been going on for a very long time, and if we're going to deal with it, we should be able to at least deal with it to a measure, to a decisive measure. Are there, you know, things being put in place to ensure that at least we can curtail forever?
Yes, that's why in our strategic plan, we talk about fleet renewal, manpower development, and all these are towards improving on filling the gaps that were lacking before. For instance, the Nigerian Navy started with very few boats given to us by the Royal Navy. But you can see that today we have the third largest navy in Africa. And our goal is to become the largest navy in Africa that can contribute effectively to global force projections. So in terms of infrastructure, platforms, we have grown tremendously. In terms of surveillance and other maritime domain awareness, we have one of the best maritime domain awareness capability in the world. I'm not talking of Africa. I'm talking of in the world. A system that gives us visibility out there at sea. But like I always try to caution, every technology, every infrastructure we have its own limitations. And that's why the human element comes into play. And we are not taking these aspects for granted. We are making sure that we develop our personnel. We also increase our strength. It will surprise you to know that the Navy is just about 30-something thousand. And we have a coastal maritime area that is over 1/3 of the nation's landmass. And we are just about 30-something thousand in number. So we are also building on this number and by increasing our recruitment, increasing our enlistment on an annual basis. And like I said, it's an ongoing fight, but the most important thing is that we are making tremendous improvement from what it was in the years before, and we keep on making those improvements. And apart from that, we're also refining our strategies, because we realize that some of the criminals that are involved in these illicit activities, they easily change tactics. When you go this way, they try to adopt another tactics. So what we are doing now is to make sure that we adapt and possibly even be ahead of them in terms of changing tactics. For instance, some of those operators, we have started attacking them by looking at the infrastructure that they use to construct those illegal refineries. So we go to where those things are being produced, and then we arrest them and demobilize them even before they start.
Okay.
Yeah.
The numbers you talked about is quite, I can imagine how troubling that would be and difficult to manage, to do the job that you're expected to do. Is that in any way the reason why the government has some contract with some private security apparatus as well?
No, that may not be the reason. The fact is that all hands must be on deck for us to be able to achieve this objective, which is a national objective. It's not just a Nigerian Navy objective.
Do you work with with the private people as well?
Yes, of course. We collaborate with all the private contractors. We collaborate with community leaders. We collaborate with all everyone that can give us the necessary information that can help us to do our job better.
Okay. Malcolm, my colleague in Abuja, has questions for you.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Well, thank you very much, Ayo. It's good to see you, Vice Admiral Ogalla, and congratulations to the Nigerian Navy as it clocks 69. I didn't know that the Nigerian Navy was older than Nigeria itself, I mean, Nigeria's independence, but that's certainly very good to know. You've spoken quite a bit on a number of issues relating to the work that the Nigerian Navy has accomplished under your leadership. And part of it my colleague has brought to the fore, which is this issue of oil theft, which he has started with. And this is very important because President Tinubu did state that part of his, part of the things he wanted to see Nigeria achieve is an increase in the production of crude oil, what it is that we're able to export, which sadly is still only our major forex earner for now. And the Nigerian Navy was saddled with that task, which you seem to have taken on quite fairly. At the time, I think we're tethering around 700,000 barrels per day, but it has since improved a great deal. Some people say sometimes 1.7, 1.8 million barrels per day. And you have spoken to collusion. You've said that if anyone is found colluding with criminals, those people will get prosecuted. You've said quite a number of things in that regard, and it seems to be working. You've also spoken to special courts. I think Ayo just asked you about the thieves, how it is that we see these people, these vessels being caught, but rarely do we ever see people being prosecuted, the question which you have now answered. However, you have called for special courts. So my question to you is on special courts. Has this call been taken seriously enough? Do you think it's something that will be realizable in your time as Chief of Naval Staff?
Okay, thank you very much for that particular question on special court. Of course, I remember I did say this last year when I came to Channels Television, and I still maintain that if we must make credible progress in terms of the prosecution of criminals involved in oil theft, there may be need for a special court. This is considering the congestion and so many other factors that have to do with the prosecution of maritime criminals. Of course, we have made this presentation to the Honorable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation. He's looking at it, but you know that they also have their own way of looking at it. Some of those areas that we, on our own part, may not be fully aware. So we have given them enough time to look at it, and if they find it necessary to create special court, I think that will help us. But if it is not created, that does not mean that the Nigerian Navy will not continue to perform its constitutional roles. We'll continue to do our best, and we'll continue to follow the normal processes of prosecution. And we believe that at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we are going to make progress. Thank you.
Are you aware of some of the hurdles that have stood in the way of making this a reality?
Yes, it's not really that there's a problem stopping it from being actualized, but it's just that the details are being fine-tuned by the Ministry of Justice. Like I said, you know, we are a law enforcement, we are a military organization, but when it comes to the aspects of law, it is the responsibility of the Ministry of Justice, and they are looking at the fine details of what need to be done and what need not to be done. And we will always know that they have a better judgment, they have a better understanding of the whole issue, so we'll wait for them. Thank you.
Okay, let me take you up on the issue of crude oil theft. I mean, this matter has now been with us for a very long time. And it would seem that the more we crack down on them, the more we see more people emerging to go into that trade. For you, as the head of the Nigerian Navy, do you think that the Nigerian Navy is reacting to this, or is there a long-term strategy which we see, which we believe can actually bring this to an end?
Yes, of course, like you said, the issue of crude oil theft and oil theft have been there for quite a long time. But one thing the public may not know is that it has always been on the decline, particularly since the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when he gave us a marching order to ensure that we reduce this issue of crude oil theft. And you look at, you see, the Navy has other roles, but you see, most of the issues that are being discussed now is the issue of how to fight crude oil theft. And that's why we are launching new operations, new platforms, all aimed at drastically reducing this. I will not tell you that it can be brought to zero, but we believe that it can be reduced to such a level where it becomes so insignificant that it does not affect the development of this country, does not hamper oil production. But You know that oil production itself also is not only hampered by crude oil theft. There are so many other factors, issues of investment, issues of so many other factors that can help us to increase oil production. And those are the areas that the federal government is looking into. While we, from the security angle, are fighting the issue of reducing theft, they are also looking at so many other factors that can help for us to be able to increase our oil production. So basically, the Nigerian Navy has a plan, and our plan is, one, we have a strategy that will look at issue of surveillance. How are we able to ensure that we monitor the environment in such a way that we can detect these occurrences, even when they are being planned? And that's why the issue of our maritime domain awareness capability comes into play. Then we'll talk about the second plan is response. This is where it's very critical because you require platforms. The sea is not where you just drive your car and get to. You need sophisticated platforms, vessels, helicopters, unarmed area vehicles, and several other platforms for you to be able to respond effectively to these threats. And we have it in our fleet renewal plan to increase the size of our fleet. Then we also develop the human capacity that will be able to operate these platforms and operate the equipment that we are procuring. Like I said before, you know, even just yesterday, we launched 3 new ships and 3 helicopters. Last year, we did the same thing. All these are part of the enablers that are being provided to ensure that we improve on our capacity. And we are really improving. Thank you.
My colleague Ayo already asked you about your relationship with contractors, which you say you work with, and you say you also work with the locals in that area. However, we have seen quite a number of issues also come to light, sometimes unsavory, between the Nigerian Navy and some of these contractors. Oftentimes, it does appear that they're working at cross purposes. Under your leadership, how will you say that those bumps, I want to imagine they are being worked upon in order to smoothen them out and everyone working towards the same goal?
Thank you. If you notice, for the past 1 year, I can say for the past 1 year, those type of issues rarely occur. Because we have been able to refine our strategy in such a way that we bring these operators into our plan. Likewise, they have also been made to realize that we are all working for the same goal, and we should be collaborating rather than antagonizing each other. The most important thing for all of us, the Nigerian Navy and other stakeholders in the industry, is to ensure that we address the problem, which is the Hydra-headed problem of oil theft. And the rancor you are talking about have been reduced, in fact, almost to zero. If you can look back in the past 1 year, you hardly hear of such type of rancor. Not because we are not having issues, but because we identify our issues and we address them immediately for the benefit of this nation. Thank you.
You've issued very strong warnings to those who collude within the Nigerian Navy. You have said there is no room for collusion. Can you tell us any real strategy, any, will I say, deterrence that you have put in place to make sure that men of the Nigerian Navy follow the path that is straight and narrow?
Yes, thank you. You see, the one thing about crime is that people are likely to commit crime if they know that they are not likely to be detected and punished. So the first thing we have done is to improve on our monitoring, detection of elements that are likely to commit crime. We have also given the commanders in the field the freedom to be able to monitor their personnel and bring them to justice at any time. And in the last 1 year or thereabout, we've been able to arrest so many of our personnel who, one way or the other, decided to get involved with the criminals. And many of them have been sentenced to jail terms by court-martial. Some have been dismissed from service. For those who have minor cases, some of them have been given reduction in rank, reduction in rates, some loss of seniority. And this has been a serious deterrence to would-be offenders. And I can tell you that every year the situation keeps on improving, because most personnel know that the possibility of them being caught is almost 90%. Not only because the Nigerian Navy is watching, but the community is watching and sending us reports. Other stakeholders are also watching and sending reports to us about the involvement of our men. So I think it's too risky now for any personnel to make that attempt, because if they do, they are likely to be caught, and the punishment that will be brought to them in line with the Armed Forces Act will not be something that anybody will want to have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chief. Let me quickly bring up other issues, because you have said that, the Nigerian Navy is not just about crude oil theft, even though we've focused largely on it, and I'm sure you understand why, because that's what a lot of Nigerians are also very interested in. However, our own coast, let's say the Bight of Benin, coast of Guinea, has been a piracy hotspot, and that's something that has been a headache for the Nigerian Navy for a while. How would you say the situation now is? Is it a lot better than it used to be? What would you say we've done in that regard to make sure that we rid our waters of pirates?
Thank you very much. Like I said, the Nigerian Navy is, of course, we are a regional Navy that have the focus on ensuring that the sea lanes of communication in our region is made safe for international trade. And that's why Nigerian Navy sees the entire Gulf of Guinea as our maritime area of interest. This we do knowing that the sea, of course, the sea is an environment whereby whatever affects your neighbor affects you. The issue of piracy, you remember there was a time where the Nigerian waters was listed as a piracy-prone water. But since 2022, because of the effort of the Nigerian Navy and other law enforcement agencies, Nigeria has been delisted from that piracy list. And we have sustained that up till the moment. Now we have issues of some of these pirates moving into some of other countries. For instance, yesterday, there was a report of a piracy incident in the waters of Sao Tome and Principe. These are the areas that we do not have the freedom to patrol continuously with the way we do in Nigerian waters. But we are also going into collaboration with those countries through the Gulf of Guinea Maritime Task Force and through other regional collaborative engagements to be able to enable us to patrol to the waters of some of these countries that may not actually have the resources to be able to effectively patrol their waters. On our own part, every day we have about 10 ships at sea. Every operational command, the Western Naval Command, the Central Naval Command, and the Eastern Naval Command are to keep at least 2 vessels at sea every day. When I mean vessels, I mean capital ships, while the operational bases are to keep other smaller vessels at sea. So about 10 vessels are at sea every day, and those are the things that are deterring pirates from coming back to our waters. Some may say that they heard that there was an attack on a fishing boat or maybe travelers in Bonny. That's not what we mean by piracy. Those are the areas within the internal waters where law enforcement is the responsibility of not only the Nigerian Navy, but also the Nigerian police. But piracy means attacks on seagoing vessels at sea, that is outside the internal waters. And for that, in that aspect, we have kept Nigerian waters at zero piracy level since 2022. And it is our desire and our intention, and we must work towards sustaining it, because it is for the benefit of the country. It is for the benefit of maritime trade. It is for the benefit of the Nigerian economy and the economy of the sub-region as a whole. Thank you.
We'll take a break at this point, Chief, and when we come back, we'll have the final leg of our conversation. Please stay with us.
Thank you for staying with us. Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogalla is still here with us, the Chief of Naval Staff. Again, thank you, for coming. Just a few other issues before we call it a day. The Nigerian Navy recently signed an agreement with the African Union to provide what they call sealift for the continent. First of all, what does that mean? And is the Nigerian Army, I beg your pardon, the Nigerian Navy ready, given the numbers that you gave us earlier?
Yes, thank you for that. You remember that like I said, the Nigerian Navy is not just a regional navy. Of course, if you look at all the navies in Africa, we are ranked very, very high. And the African Union have identified that we have the capacity to be able to provide sealift in places where there's emergency, either humanitarian assistance or peace support operations, where you require the movement of large number of men and material. And they've contacted Nigeria to consummate that memorandum of understanding, which was done a few months ago. Now, that memorandum of understanding requires that whenever the African Union needs to move personnel or equipment, either in terms of humanitarian assistance, they can contact the Nigerian Navy to do that. And so far, the Nigerian Navy has the resources in terms of platforms. You remember we have a landing ship transport, which is a vessel that is supposed to be used for movement of equipment, and an escada, to be precise. That vessel is what we are put into that MOU to be used to be able to support them whenever they call for that mission. We also have other vessels and NS Prosperity that will provide the convoy protection whenever such sealift is being undertaken. And of course, you know that we have done this before. We have done it during the time of ECOMOG operation. We did it also recently in Guinea-Bissau, and even in Gambia, we did it very recently. So it's something that we've been doing, and we can do it well, and that's why the African Union had to engage us. But the first request, we're still awaiting the first request, and for us to be able to carry out the assignment. Thank you.
The Nigerian Navy also has plans. You've announced plans to establish a Special Operations Command in Benue State. The first question I asked was, hey, is there a coastline in Makurdi? Of course, we know that there is an inland facility there, but why is that command necessary at this time?
Yes, thank you. You know, the Nigerian Navy, like I told you, we have what we call our total spectrum maritime strategy, which identifies our operations to be conducted in 5 spectrums. One of those spectrums is land operation. And this is because the Navy is expected to provide what we call civil aid to military aid to civil authority, and aid to civil power. That's why we are deployed in almost 30 states of the Federation in support of the Army and the police in fighting insecurity. That's why we are deployed in Maiduguri, Lake Chad, the Northwest, Northeast, South, everywhere, in that particular role of provision of aid to civil authority. And we identified that because of our very few numbers, that we are having limitations with with respect to being able to provide a much-needed force. We also have limitations with respect to providing personnel who are adequately trained to fight on land, being that our orientation is maritime-based. So the Special Operations Command and the Marines that we're establishing, they're essentially to be able to train people who can fight on land in line with our total spectrum maritime strategy. We're already doing it, but we want to do it better. And why have we chosen Makurdi? Of course, you know the River Benue is a vast expanse of landmass and the insecurity that is taking place in those areas. And also you notice that the elements of that command will not all be in Makurdi. For instance, the Navy base in Lake Chad will be a unit of that command. The Navy base in Shagunu will also be a unit of that command. So many of the units that are fighting on land, for instance, also our Special Boat Service, all those units will be part of the command. So the command is essentially to provide a coordinating framework for all our special forces operations that are supposed to contribute in provision of internal security and civil aid to military aid to civil power.
Well, I'm going to have to ask that you commit to coming again real soon.
Yes,
because a number of other things I would have loved to ask you about, for instance, your quick impact projects and whatever your own perspectives are for the future. But we'll definitely host you some other time, hopefully very soon.
Thank you very much.
These other issues, particularly as you prepare for the 70th anniversary of the Nigerian Navy.
Yes, the 70th anniversary. I told you this year was low-key because we are preparing for the big one next year. And we also want to have so many things that to bring to the table to celebrate that 70th anniversary.
Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogalla is the Chief of Naval Staff. I appreciate your time with us.
Thank you very much.
And that's the much of the program we can take today. Thank you for being a part of our morning and for allowing us to be a part of yours. I'm Ayo Makinde. Enjoy the rest of your day, your week, and your month.
On top of the hour will be Business Morning. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.